DJParisWalker.com.
Okay.
And this is the first in a series of interviews for DJ Legends of Birmingham. Right.
Can I thank you very much for inviting me, Paris, for your very special interview. And I'd like to thank you for being the first. The first?
Excellent.
Okay.
Well, the reason why I wanted to start with you, because hot off your success of Powerhouse, right? Powerhouse was the first place that I ever saw you DJ.
Okay.
As a child. We're talking, I was about 15, and we was exposed to some incredible music of the time, right? But I want you to take me back to when you first started DJing. How old were you when you first started DJing?
Well, to be fair, as far as a DJ was concerned, it was more with my brothers, because we was involved in a reggae sound system called Lord Jacob.
How old was you about that time?
We were, well, I was 16, to tell you the truth. I was 16. I was the oldest brother, and a group of us, myself, Mouty, my brother who's got a catering business out, Angie's Catering, Roy, Gary, you know, we all, and Robin Smith, who, you know, who's done very well for himself in care and everything. You know, so we was all part of a sound system called Lord Jacob in Saltley in Birmingham.
In Saltley?
Yeah.
Back in Saltley, that's interesting to know that there was a reggae sound system from Saltley.
Oh no, there was reggae sound system. We had Count Flash.
What sort of year? We're talking?
We're talking about 76, 77. I remember, as a record collection, I've always been a prolific record buyer. And what started me off in buying records, but I'm going to say it in print now, what started me off, I wanted to borrow some records off a friend, and he told me the proverbial F-O.
Okay.
And I thought, right, one day you're going to want to borrow a record off me.
Wow.
So, you know, that's what started me on my journey, is buying records, and I was always a record buyer. And as I said, I did the reggae sound system with my brother for about.
So what kind of music, what kind of reggae was rocking? Roots. So tell me the political landscape of Birmingham. What was you going through at that time? What was your family life like at that time in that 70s era? Because 76, I kind of remember it as a child, as a heat wave year.
Yeah. And
it was very hot, and ethnic minority people, I should say, wasn't really doing that well in Birmingham.
Well, to be fair, I mean, I used to go out a lot with my friends at the time. We used to go to Rainbow, Mayfair, Locarno, Top Rank, Boogie. No, it wasn't Boogies. It was Barbarella's then. So Grand Hotel. I remember some stories of Grand Hotel, but it's like, it was a really interesting time of my life where, at that time, during that period, I've always loved the soul. And what used to happen, I always used to listen to Radio Luxembourg. So musically, I was with my friends with the reggae sessions, and then with the soul side of it, I used to be in my bedroom with my headphones on, listening underneath the radio, trying to find a signal to listen to Radio Luxembourg.
Because the thing is, right, you started off with a reggae sound system, and I could never connect how you ignited such a huge R&B, soul R&B scene of that time.
What happened was...
How did that come? How did you make the transition from playing with your brothers with a reggae sound into this DJ Frenchie T that we know for Powerhouse?
Well, put it this way, I fused the elements really, because I'll never forget my first records I bought. When I was 16, I worked at Lewis's. I got my first job. I left school and I was going to go into sixth form, and I started working at Lewis's, and Graham Moore had a record shop. and in the Oasis. So as a porter working in Lewis's, every Thursday was payday. So what happened, I would mix the soul and the reggae. But what started me off on the soul was my friend. He used to have a sound system. No, he had a group, and a young singer called Jackie Graham used to sing in that group.
I know that Jackie Graham.
And anyway, so I went to a concert of his, and it was at the Mayfair. And what happened? For the first time, I seen Errol T, the Twins. I seen all this. These guys dressing fancy and smart. The music, the vibe, the atmosphere. I thought I was home. What particular track or tracks, or because I know some incredible 70s R&B came out at that time. You're talking about people like around 1974, 1973, 74.
It was a lot of Parliament funk and that.
No, there was a phrase called the shuffle. I was at school then, so you had things like James Brown. You had things like the Fatback, you had things like Creative Source, you had things Eddie KENDRICKS, Keep On Trucking. I remember practicing my shuffling to that.
Wow.
And it's like that kind of started me off. But what I kind of realised where my soul side came into it, I was always fascinated with Isaac Hayes' Shaft, but more importantly for me personally was the Four Tops, Are You Man Enough?
Okay.
And what happened, it was like, I realised that I had a certain soul side, which, I don't know, to this day, I've maintained it with myself. So moving on, it was like, when I started to, so I combined bone reggae and soul during that period. So what happened anyway, when I was working at Lewis's, you know, I started to come away from the reggae side. And so my first records I can remember buying from Graham Warshop was Lonnie Liston Smith's Song for the Children on 7-inch.
That's a massive classic.
Trinidad, the John Gibbs Orchestra, if that's the right name. The dementia's kicked in now.
Oh gosh.
And Cuba, you know, please forgive me for that. Gibson Brothers, and also there was something else, but the main thing about it was what it did. It introduced me to the world of the jazz funk thing, because I didn't know it existed. And when I discovered it, things like Ronnie Harris, Gary's Gang, Players Association, all these sort of things, I thought, geez, I'm home.
Because what I'm getting at with your discovery of this music, right, was that Birmingham in the 70s and early 80s was, from the black community point of view, was heavily reggae. You couldn't really get a gig unless you were playing reggae at that point in time. So how you managed to get gigs?
Well, what happened? Well, to tell you the truth, what really happened, there was a transition where you had places like Barbarella's, Rebecca's, where you had soul sections and reggae sections.
So it was just literally sectioned off for soul.
And you had like the Mayfair, Rainbow Suite, where you had the reggae element, the heavy, like the sound system, and then they played a bit of James Brown and something like that. But what happened though, for my part, the disco scene came into effect around 77, 78, 79. The disco scene, the jazz funk scene started to come into play. And now I was more and more into that. I was more and more into that. And I met a young DJ who was buying records. And I met a young DJ called, at the Discovery, called Paul Dixon.
Wow.
And
Paul Dixon, Paul mixed Dixon.
And the thing is that, you know, up until this point, I was starting to go out, but I never really went out to places like Chaplin's and like anything around that time, because I had young children. So
what I'm getting at is that because of your responsibilities.
The responsibilities, and also in a relationship that I really cherished at the time. I wasn't really that bothered about going to clubs and all that in that.
Okay.
The kind of clubs we was going to was more like Rising Star and with KKJ, because KKJ used to be the
Chris Kennedy Jr.
Yeah,
from,
he was a disco DJ there, as well as playing reggae. Yeah, he was a disco DJ, as well as playing the reggae. He was more on the disco side. So every Friday's Rising Star, you know, that was a routine. So around the 78, 79 period, so Rising Star, I was still going to the reggae clubs, but I was more and more getting involved with the soul scenario.
So what sort of DJs was around you influencing this R&B and soul?
See, the soul side of it, I didn't really discover the likes of Sean Williams, Colin Curtis, Dave Till, Graham Wall. I knew of Graham Wall because I went to his record shop, but I didn't really know the other elements till around 1978, 79. That's when I really started to discover those guys. And my first experience of going, I wanted more of this music, and I'll never forget, I went to an all-nighter. I wanted more. I wanted to know what this jazz funk scene was, because I heard so much about it from my friends, and I thought, right, okay then, let me go and find it. So I went to an all-night at Locarno, and I just was, I was
blown away.
I was just blown away. The dancing, the vibe, the style, the arrogance. You know, you had to be part of a scene, and I wasn't part of that scene, so it was like I was the outsider looking in. But I was fascinated with the scene, and you know, so I started, as far as the soul records side of it, I was really starting to buy more and more of that sort of stuff.
Because if I sort of fast forward you a little bit to, I'm saying 1981, 82.
I'll take you back. Right. Let me take you back to 1980 with this young gentleman, my young friend who became one of my greatest friends to this day. It's Paul McSwizzer Dixon. His name's Shaquille Dixon there. So we started we got to communicate together. So we said, right, so we'll form a DJ group, and we called ourselves the Atlantic Connection. Okay. So what we did, we did our first promotion at Stars, you know where the Dome is?
Yes.
We did our first promotion, there was 15 people in there.
Wow.
And the big record at that time was Hiroshima Warriors. And records at that time, it was 79/80. So it was like, that was our first launch into the DJ world. And then what happened, we started doing American parties, American bass parties, and so forth, because his girlfriend at the time was, her mother had lots of American friends, and so they had parties and so forth. So that took us more and more into the world of soul music. And then my world was fully devoted to the soul music.
But how did you start to develop the scene? Because like you was a central person to this music, right? And I know you eventually went on to work at Summit Records, which is where a lot of the DJs met you. Yeah. But before then, which I was
nothing. No, to tell you the truth, I only really started to get my recognition when I started working at Summit. What happened, 1980, I remember this clearly, I got made redundant.
Wow. And
it was about 9 o'clock, went to Pizza Hut, my redundancy money with my kid and the missus I was with at the time, we went to Pizza Hut to celebrate or cry with my my payoff. And basically what happened, about 9:45, we was walking along New Street, and I heard music playing of Temple Street.
Whoa, Temple Street.
And I thought, wow, what's going on? What's that? So I said, hold on, let me go and have a look. It was about 9:45. So I walked up to Temple Street, and at the time, but I wasn't to know, Winston had just got back from London buying records to sell to everybody over the weekend. So I knocked the window and says, can I buy some records? So invited me in, and I bought, I think, 5 or 6 records. And then what happened, I left, you know. And who I was seeing at the time, she said, well, why don't you ask him for a job? I said, yeah, he doesn't need me, you know, why does he need me, you know? He says, well, ask him for, he can only say yes or no.
Yeah,
so I went back, I knocked the window, and I did my Yasser Hughes, and I says, do you have a job? I've lost my job. You know, I told him I got made redundant. And I says, I'm looking for work. Do you have any employment? And he says to me, no. He's just filled it up. And he gave it to a friend of mine called Jerry Shillingford.
Okay, I know Jerry very well.
So what happened anyway? He says, no, but you know what? Come and see me on Friday. This was October 1980. He says, come and see me on Friday. And at the time, I was buying records from DNSCO as well, Sean Williams' shop and Dave Till's shop. And so I came on the Thursday. So I started working part-time Thursday, Fridays, Saturdays with him. After 2 weeks, I became a full-time member of staff. And then that's when
you started to.
That's when
the whole
legacy started to know.
I'm gonna. You might not remember this, but in 1982, and I keep saying that year is because that was the first time I ever set foot in Summit Records, and I came into your record shop. Right,
was it Temple Street?
It was Temple Street, and the guy says, I says, so where's all this jazz, funk, and hip hop and R&B and all this stuff? Oh, it's downstairs. There's a guy called Frenchie, and that was, I think, it was probably
Trevor.
Winston.
It was probably Winston.
Probably Winston or Trevor, because there was Trevor and Winston there.
Trevor's upstairs. Winston was powerful.
So I said, okay, let me go downstairs, and I went downstairs. I saw you and the 12-year-old DJ Paris Walker, right? Went up to her and says, so what have you got, right? And you go to me, but so what do you like? And I says, I like breakdance. I've got a record for you. And you pulled down an import version of African Bombata's Soul Sonic Force, Planet Rock. Okay. Right. And I says, well, how much is that? And he told me some ridiculous price. I said, oh my. It was an import. It was an import. And I didn't know, at the time I didn't know about imports and whether records are straight from America or records released here. Yeah. I says, haven't you got it cheaper? And he goes, well, you don't really want that. You said, you don't really want that version of the cheaper one. I says, well, I've only got like 4 or 5 quid on me, man. You know what I mean? So you pulled down a Polydor version of African Bombata's Soul Sonic Force, and I bought the 7-inch version of it. And I went home, right, and I was so happy, right. And the first gig I ever played as a schoolboy, right, I did a youth club and I played that record, and it smashed the place, and that started my career as a DJ. Okay.
Well, to be fair, on my side, what happened was that because I was in a position where I was starting to see a lot of DJs promote and so forth, I didn't want to be a DJ because I wanted to be everybody's friend. So for me, it was more important to be everybody's friend and not to be competition with people. So anyway, a young promoter from Preston came down. And he said to me, because the Lacana All Days at that time had just finished.
Yes.
Well, had finished about 2 years. And he came up to me, hence, you know, the history on this shirt.
Yes.
Right, so, so basically what happened, he said to me, Tony, if you can help me with a club, I will look after you. Now, at this time, I'd nicknamed myself Frenchie T. Because what I did, I pirated my name off this London DJ, Sean French.
Okay.
So I wanted to define the two of us, because my name's Tony, I thought, right, Frenchie and T for Tony. And I didn't think I'd be known or anything. I didn't think of anything like that. So anyway, Frenchie T was born to the all-dayer scene at Max Millions. That was the first time when I started to become a DJ on the all-dayer circuit. And I helped Kenny to get like Max Millions. We did 2 all-dayers there. Then it went to Snobs. Then it went to Romeo's and Juliet's.
Romeo and Juliet.
Then changed its name to Steptoes. Then it went to the Powerhouse.
Yes.
The Powerhouse, well, I'll tell you more about that in a while. Then, as a promoter, I also promoted the Hummingbird All Dayers with Tony Bing and Elliot Brown. And basically, what as I said, during the period from Maximilians to the Powerhouse, I built up a reputation as a DJ, travelling all over the country. And as a young person, as a young man, I wanted to beat this drum about Birmingham because I was a bit of a rebel.
Yes.
I must admit, I was a bit of a rebel behind the scenes, not in front of it, behind the scenes. And I'd managed to gather interest from London in regards to Blues and Soul magazine, where I wanted to promote Birmingham, I wanted to promote the Midlands, to say we had this scene, why is it nobody taking no notice of it? And so I received a letter one day from Blues and Soul to say, we are happy to, because what I used to do, I used to write letters, reports I'll say, and send it down to them. And I had a letter and I was given to the gig to say, we thank you, we're proud to announce that, you are now a contributor for Blues and Soul for the Midlands area.
Wow.
So that kind of started things off for me. There was a young editor from London for the Black Echoes magazine, Lindsay Wetzker, and he used to travel up and down the country, and so we got kind of friendly with him because with all your days scene, because he noticed, even though that the music was like electro and funk and so forth, what you have to remember at that time, you had a jazz room,
yes,
but everything was played in one room in regards to the soul, the funk, the electro, the hip hop. Everything was played in one room.
Okay.
But that's another topic. That's another topic. But at that time, even like with house coming in, but that's more later. So I'll come back to that at a later time. But the scene started to grow, where you had like 200 people, 300 people, 500 coaches coming from all over the country. This scene was exploding.
Yeah, because when I went down there, right, the record that I could associate what stampeded the dance floor, what you used to play, was Nucleus Jam On It. Do you remember that record?
Okay, I remember.
Do you remember how big
Jam
that
On
record
It,
was?
Jam On It, things like Johnson Crew, things like the Smurf, but also you had things like Wolf Ticket, you also had things like Stone, and at that period, during that time, those records, Pleasure Glide,
Yes.
so you had cult records,
And you was the man to break those records to young DJs coming up like myself.
I was fortunate because I was in a position where I worked in a record shop, and because I had the double head of a DJ stroke working in the record shop, I could introduce people. So certain people trusted my judgment as far as like records was concerned, and it's kind of like held me in good stead. And I found that.
But not only that is the dancing scene. You spawned. Well, I kind of credit it to you because the music that was played inspired those people to get together. Duracell Posse and these other crews back in the old days. They literally came there to dance.
But see, the thing is, you're talking about the Duracell people, but they was a few generations down. Realistically speaking, the generation spawned from, say, like the Chaplins, the Rum Runner, the early Locarno. You had like a nucleus there, and then it evolved into, say, like the generation with like Bulldog and your Robert Johnsons and your Lizards and Stretches and all these sort of people. There was another generation, and also dancers like Rico and so forth on the jazz side. So those two generations was way before the Duracell. The Duracell was much later.
It was much later.
So during the all-day period, you had a nucleus of people that was starting to form. So as a DJ, going out to all these different things, because I was fortunate enough organising coaches with Shaquille. We was fortunate enough, and we had like DJs, Chris Reed as well, we was part of a nucleus, a Birmingham nucleus. We was going all over the country, and it was like, as soon as Birmingham went into certain clubs, venues, the Birmingham, as soon as Birmingham came in, they lit up the dance floor. They just went straight on the floor and they started. The party had started. Nottingham, everybody all over the country. At one stage, they was calling it Frenchie's Army. They're coming in, starting the party. And to be fair, those are special times because looking back, I didn't realise that things like with the all day scene at that time, where you had like the powerhouse. Now, I'll bring into the powerhouse now, where the powerhouse became the pinnacle of the build-up of all those other all days that I mentioned.
Yes. So these were the building blocks.
That was the building blocks.
So what the powerhouse became.
Yeah. The powerhouse for that scene at that time became the pinnacle venue for the all-day scenes, well, nationally, well, in the Midlands anyway, because then what you found, you had, whether it be every 2 weeks or whether it was Birmingham, Rock City, Birmingham, Rock City, Birmingham, Rock City. So, you know, those two venues, you know, somebody mentioned it quite recently that they never realised how important that scene was at that time. No, but what happened was that America had Paradise Garage, America had Studio 54. Fair enough, we had our certain things like with Rum Runner, but the powerhouse was our Paradise Garage.
Yeah,
because what it
that
was
jazz funk. You literally had a jazz room where there was like that small. What you used to
it
call
wasn't even just a jazz funk. What it was a mixture of a combination of lots of music, whether it be jazz, electro, funk, all the mixtures. There was a lot of music, and what it was, people was coming out to dance every Sunday. It was a ritual.
Yes.
It was a ritual.
Yes.
So it was like, can you imagine? You're talking about young people who weren't really working. Some people, I don't know how they managed. You had I call it the taxing crew, the town crew, where they made their own money to attend these venues. But the thing is, though, the crux of it really was that this scene captivated and captured the imagination of a country. So you had all these pockets in Manchester, you had these pockets in Sheffield, Glasgow.
Would it be fair to say that it's the building blocks of the scene that is what we have now, probably on a more commercial scale?
Well, you've got to look on it like this. The dance scene came from the all-day scene. It was an offshoot. Because if you think about it, the rave parties, things like Money Pennies, things like Starlight, things, all those underground parties, part of that was influenced by the all-day scenes where, you know, people going to farms or barns or warehouses and so forth to hear music. But that was a different generation.
Now Powers, I want to stay on Powers for a minute because I've seen on the t-shirt there, you've got Tom Brown, Gene Khan, Cameo. Was there records that you are close to your heart?
No,
or was there the records that rocked the crowd?
There was a record there was the artist of the period, because if you go through the names, you know, you have your Lonnie Liston Smiths. You know, that record was a cult record at the time. And I mean, to be fair, some of these records, as DJs, as punters or whatever, we've heard them a million times. But the thing is, though, when they came out, they was groundbreakers.
Yes.
They was game changers at that time. So, you know, we may be bored of listening to them now and so forth, but at that time when they came out, they were game changers. And like with Powerhouse, the very first the very first event, it was a super club. Mecca decided to open a super club, and the promoter John Tully, who ran a Thursday night at the Crown and Cushion, he got this venue, the Powerhouse, which was the revamped, redecorated super club, the old Locarno, and it was like lasers. There was nothing like it in Birmingham.
Yeah, there was nothing.
Lasers, sound. The sound system, it was amazing, absolutely amazing. And what happened is that you had that first event a record just came out, David Joseph, but it was on promo at the time, but it came out. It was creating a massive stir. And he was the very first PA at the Powerhouse all day. And basically what happened, I can remember it clearly. The atmosphere, people was excited. You got to think about lots of street kids, young kids, and it was quite multicultural as well. It was
very multicultural. Everybody from every race was there.
It's multicultural, and you know they embraced this event called the Jazz Funk All Day, because what happened, it started off in the Bally High, in the jazz room, in the small room, and it used to be the Northern Soul in the big room, but now it was like the big room was for the jazz funk parties, and the small room became the jazz parties. But it started, I think it was 1983 it started, but it started a generation, a golden era in, forgive the expression, black music on a national scale.
And bearing in mind as well, none of this music was getting played on the radio at that time, was it? Not really.
You only had pockets of music being played because what was happening.
On mainstream radio, like at the time there was BRMB, there was obviously Radio 1.
But
you never heard nothing like that.
I agree with you. It just exploded. And if you think about it, for over a period of say 83 to 86, probably 87, those was the golden periods era. So, and then when the house side started, where you had, if I remember right, like this, oh God, Chippy, oh God, I'm trying to think of the label. Again, Shaquille, he used to work with Street Sounds Records.
Yeah.
So, the Chicago label, I can't remember, I should remember, but the thing is though, that the house part of it came into it, and it created another scene which with pirate radio then started to bring that into a fore. But it was a golden era, and I must admit I'm glad to be a part of it.
Well, that scene there, it obviously went to Hummingbird, and
with Hummingbirds, what happened with the Hummingbird, I was the actual, with Tony Bing and another friend, Elliot Brown, I was the actual promoter of the Hummingbird All Days.
You was promoter of the Hummingbird? I never knew that. I thought it was another promoter.
No. What happened, Lloyd came to me at some...
This is Lloyd Blake?
Yeah, Lloyd Blake came to me and he said to me...
He was the manager of Hummingbird at this time.
And he says to me, he would like to have all days, the Jazz Funk All Days at the Hummingbird. And because of my friendship with Lloyd, I had to do it. So it meant for a period of time, I broke away from the Powerhouse All Days to support Lloyd. And I think we did Kenny G, we did people like Morrissey Mullen, Onward International.
You brought in a whole load of artists. A lot of artists, what I noticed about when the All Days went to the Hummingbird is a lot of artists whose career probably was washed up at that time. Like, I'll give you an example, Betty Wright. Washed up at the time, but the record, because it was played in Birmingham, it was that big that you was able to bring her to the Hummingbird for an event.
See, what happened was that Lloyd had a philosophy. He said that, look, this is a black music venue. It is our culture, our right to have black music played in a black music club. And he fought so hard, whether people liked him or not, he fought so hard for black artists to have a platform in Birmingham city centre, and he did do that. He did do that.
100%.
So, you know, under a variety of restraints, you know, he couldn't maintain the venue, but the one thing he did do, he did fulfil a promise where people like Gil Scott-Heron, people, you know, people from all over the world, Curtis Mayfield and so
Public
forth.
Enemy,
they came.
NWA came there.
Mary J. Blige.
Mary J. Blige. R. Kelly came there. Love him or hate him now, but he was there.
People came, artists came, and there was a venue, a black venue for black music artists. And okay, it couldn't maintain it, but you know, in the short space of time it was open, it did fulfil a purpose. And so when your day is seen, now in 84, coming to 85, music had started to change in a way where the accessibility was starting to become more open. Again, another gentleman, his name was Cecil Morris.
Yes.
He came to Summit Records and he says, look...
Cecil Morris of PCRL
Yeah.
Radio, yeah.
He said to me, right, I'm putting together a radio station. I'd like to have you as one of my sole presenters on the radio station, and also he spoke to Trevor Ranks to do one of the reggae programs. So the original PCRL setup was 6 DJs. It was myself.
So you were literally the very first pirate radio DJ.
I was the third presenter on PCRL. So we had Rodney J, there was 6 of us. Rodney J, Music Master Cecil himself, Orlando M, Stones,
Daddy
Trevor
Stones.
Ranks,
Yes.
and me.
So there's 6 presenters. and
Six
stuff.
of us
Wow.
that started on my birthday, the 23rd of May, 1985.
1985.
So that's when we first started PCRL. And what happened was that as the popularity of pirate radio, because what happened, London was already
up and running with pirate radio, yeah.
So Birmingham had it, and like with the raids, and to be fair, Cecil, I think he was underestimated. People have underestimated the impact that he made in the Birmingham music scene.
No, he had a massive impact on the for DJs like myself. He had a massive impact on the music scene with PCRL. It blew us away that someone was brave enough to step out and start to broadcast black music in that way.
Well, the thing is, how I would put it as well was that he gave in Birmingham black music a platform, but also as well there was a lot of diversity in putting that music, because he was raided, he went to courts, he was fined, the threats of prison, and you know there was a lot. What he stood up, faced the company saying, well look, hang on, the country, you know, the media and so forth, look, we needed to present music, our music, in our own form. And
at that point in time, he wasn't allowed to do that.
It wasn't allowed, but he still in the face of adversity, in the face of like, for the love of music as well, he did it. And you know, whatever accolades that should be given, that he should have. The first person I would give, I'd raise 2 hands to, is Winston Gordon, Summit Records. There is nobody on this planet I can give.
Would you say that he was your mentor, Winston?
Winston Gordon, musically for me, was the most important person.
What was his knowledge of music? Was he more reggae? Because I always saw him as this more reggae orientated sort of guy who came to you for advice. No, but it was the other way around.
Winston's music knowledge was very diverse. His favourite music, his favourite musician was Jimi Hendrix.
Jimi Hendrix?
Yep.
That's surprising.
Jimi Hendrix was his favourite artist. He could tell you every album, every track on every Jimi. He had the complete collection of Jimi Hendrix.
Wow.
With the reggae side of it, he had gathered himself a reputation as a promoter, but also as well what he did, he had a shop in Wolverhampton called the Hit Factory before he started Summit Records. And himself and Don Christie, again, I have so much admiration for Don Christie. The two of them, even though you had all the other, like Quaker City, Zion and all that, when they had record shops and Black Wax and all that, Don Christie and Winston at Summit Records came to Birmingham City Centre. Yes. And even though you had Bailey's Records, they brought music into black music to a different form.
They were all the places. As a DJ coming up, they were the only places to go for music. If you wanted up to date, up front reggae, hip hop, or R&B, or house, or any of the genres that we just mentioned, Don Christie's The Summits was the places to go. And yourself, obviously, on the
On the
R&B
soul
hip hop,
side, yeah.
and Trevor Ranks and even
Lenny.
Everton.
It was Lenny at
Yeah.
Don's and Don himself.
Yes.
But pirate radio, I have to say that.
Did that help the sales of music at that time? Because
Oh God, yeah.
Because selling music now, right? One track that I would say I credited you for moving as far as retail is concerned was On Vogue. Hold On.
See, but En Vogue was more later on.
I know it was later on,
yeah.
but it was a record that they were unknown, completely unknown, and it was an import record, and it was like an underground record that took off.
See, my take on that is that you have lots of different records that could have been, I call icon records. The first one I would say would have been Kenny Burke, Rising to the Top. The second one I would have said would have been Chaka Khan, Ain't Nobody. The next one, even though you had lots of records in between that, in Birmingham, I had the privilege of having one of only 3 copies in the country of Sahara's Love So Fine.
Oh my God, I remember that record.
So it was a nice pat in the back for me, and it was my birthday and all that kind of stuff. But the thing is though, as I says, moving on, I was personally driven to wanting to promote a soul and dance station in Birmingham. So I know it's quite legendary, me and Cecil's arguments at PCRL.
And you moved to get fresh.
So it was like, I just thought, you know what, I just wanted to have I wanted a soul station. So when I left PCRL, I left there.
How long did you stay at PCRL just before you?
I was at PCRL from 1985 to 1987.
So you spent
87,
2 years.
a couple of years. And then, funny enough, I was in I formed a station called SCR with Don Christie,
Second City Radio,
Tony Owens, Ricky Bailey from Delegation, Uncle Sam. There was 6 of us. Myself, there's so many. Uncle Sam, Don Christie, Tex Flint.
Flint?
Yeah,
wow.
Tex Flint, yeah. So we formed...
He was the organiser of the Birmingham Carnival as well.
So we organised Second City, and really that didn't really... Through a variety of different things, it didn't really last that long as how we wanted it to. And then I broke away, and funny enough, the engineer I'd used I was quite close friends with Tony Monson, and we used the engineer for Soul Radio.
Okay.
So, and then when I set up Fresh FM with my mate Mike Paul, I just didn't want to know nothing. I was burnt out with music. I hated music with a passion.
By that time.
And he talked me into setting up a weekend station, and I used Gordon Mack's engineer at that time, and I must admit I had a lot of fun with that station.
But it had a massive, just for it being a weekend station, Fresh FM, that had a massive impact on the scene as well, because it ignited other DJs.
Fresh FM was the first proper black music and dance station in Birmingham.
What was your motivation to
My motivation was I wanted to show London that Birmingham had a scene. I started to lose interest in music because of one reason or another. Around 1991, 92, I just had enough of music. So I didn't want to know. So I actually came out of music for nearly 18, 19 years. I lost interest. And what happened, I started to enjoy music as a punter, going out having a drink, but also as well, I'd always had a love for the soulful house and the house scene.
Yes.
I always said to myself, if I could have played anything, I wish I could have played the house side. And what happened, I was approached by Dave VJ and Lindsay Westcott in 2011, or 2010 actually, in contributing to a book called Master of the Airwaves, which was realistically a biology about the black music pirate radio scene of the 80s, 80s, 90s, and they wanted different contributors, and I was asked, and I said, yeah, I'd love to do it. So what happened, I did that, I sent my contribution, and I said to them, if ever you was going to do a promotion, a radio promotion around the country, let me do Birmingham. Let me do Birmingham. And what happened, that was around 2011, and when the book was finally released, I think it was released 2012, when it was finally published. So what I did, I took the book to promote, because the London launch, originally the launch was going to be done in Birmingham.
Okay.
Then they changed it to London. And what happened, I thought, right, if I'm going to promote it like this, I'm going to go around and connect with like Mike Shaft, Colin Curtis, all these people who are part of the music scene. And I'd go around the country with the book, taking pictures, and it started to give me a buzz. And at that time, I was a regular going to like all the the weekenders, and different sort of music scenes, So connecting with my music past, I started to get a buzz. I really started to get a buzz. And what really did it for me was hanging around for 2 weekenders with the My Soul crew.
My Soul from London?
Yeah, hanging around with them at the Southport Weekenders, watching how they did things.
You did a radio show for them as well, didn't you?
I did a guest spot. I did a guest spot for them. And what happened, I never realised I missed music. I had that bug again. And I thought, okay then, so I think it was Minehead 50 or 49, and I came back from that, I was buzzed out, and I thought, because at the time I was really good friends with a friend, Dave Simpson, who did a magazine called Soulmate magazine.
Oh, okay.
And he gave me lots of vibes, and I thought, right, I need to get back into music. So I thought, I came back and I wanted to set up a radio station. That was it, I got the bug. And because I wanted to do the radio station to promote the book launch. So I went to see Dennis at Radio Sandwell.
Dennis on Constructive Trio.
Yeah, and he opened the door, because I went to do an advert. He opened the door, and all of a sudden I went back 20 plus years, and I seen myself. It wasn't Dennis that was in front of me, it was myself, it was in front of me. And I remembered everything what happened when I ran a radio station. And I said, no way was I going to do a radio station again. No way. So...
Was it the stress of DJs and the egos?
No. I think I had the longest record for being a DJ on a pirate radio, 23 hours. And the engineer came, I was playing records for 23 hours.
Wow.
Just trying to keep the station going. The engineer came...
You get let down with by lots of DJs.
And he seen me asleep on the decks. And I thought... and you need to go home.
Yeah.
I thought, no, I don't want that no more. So I asked him if I could be a presenter. And the 27th of April, 2014, the VIP lounge at the Kitten Club was formed.
Well,
that's when it was formed.
And that has become an iconic show of a different, because you've syndicated the show to lots of different stations there as well, and you've built up a massive social media audience.
I'd like to think I have.
Well,
I'd like to think I have.
The success of Powerhouse alone, and people that listen to your style of DJing and the DJing of that era, to me...
see, the thing is, I was always, and you're going to be an advocate of this, I was always influenced by American music. That was my passion. I know about with UK artists, but I was brought up on all the greats of the American artists, and it's part of my DNA.
I know there's probably lots of favourites, but who's a favourite over the decades that you come back to?
I'll go for a couple, but it's all because of styles. Female, Patty Austin, Gladys Knight, Chaka Khan's my queen.
Chaka Khan. And was you involved with getting her to with what was the Dome to? It's now O2 Institute.
No,
O2,
I wasn't.
But she actually came and you were
yeah.
there.
No, I wasn't there.
You
I wasn't
there?
there. No, I wasn't there. I didn't go. But what happened so she was, well, Chaka Khan, she was my favourite, and then for male artists, I have to say, people like Lon Liston Smith, Luther
Vandross.
Luther. You know, he was such an iconic part of my life, but also like people like Gary Taylor, Phil Perry, things like that. But also as well, I have a love for jazz as well. So I'd like to think I'd have quite an eclectic taste, but like coming later on into the years, especially when I started the King Club, I wanted to play house because I never had the chance to play it and I was doing it.
But you spawned a lot of house DJs.
With the record shops.
With the record shop because Shift Work and you had obviously Crystal Force with
Andy
Playboy. Andy Ward. Obviously, Andy Ward has obviously gone off the Richter scale, and you know what I mean. Name me some DJ, because a lot of DJs are coming to the business because of you, because they've been to your record shop. They started as a collectors, and then they became DJs because of your influence.
Well, I'd like to think where I look at people, I see like the young generation. I see like E-double-D. I see.
And E-double-D was a regular. He ended up working at the record shop as well, didn't he?
I know. E-double-D, Andy Ward. I see young people like.
What about Dr. Funk? You
Dr. I worked with him. Cash. You know, when it came to the radio, you know, of everybody on the radio, if I was to look at somebody who was kind of like my boy as far as like the radio was, like Cash will always be very special to me as far as like radio was concerned, like with the effort, the energy and the what we tried to do to make a radio station. And I'll never forget how we got into getting him onto the radio station.
Let's run through that quickly.
Well, he came to me, I was waiting
for... Cash Rex?
Yeah, Cash Rex. I was waiting for a train at New Street's train station, and he came up to me and says, "French, you know, because he used to write letters to Kenny B and on Peace Roll. This is on Peace Roll. He says, we haven't got enough hip hop on pirate radio. We ain't got enough hip hop." And I was in the process of setting up
Fresh FM.
SCR.
Was it SCR?
Second City. And he says, you know, we need some more hip hop on the radio. And I says, well, if you want more hip hop, why don't you do it? I'll give you this. You know, you can work for me, and you can have your hip hop. You can do as much hip hop as you want. And that's how we started working together on pirate radio. Wow. But you know, even like when we the Money Penny, I have to give a massive shout out to Jim Ryan and Michael and Lee at the depot, who went on to become Money Pennies. Yes. Because with them, I used the depot as their mailing address for the pirate stations. Wow. And they didn't need it because it could have got custom problems, but they did it. And, you know, I'll always be grateful to those guys, even though they're West Bromwich Albion fans. But, you know, I'll always be grateful to them. So, you know, my path with lots of different people, different DJs, different promoters, scenes change, you know, it's been quite a journey. And so now with the radio...
Are you surprised that this Powerhouse reunion has brought so many people from all different walks of life to this era of 2020?
Well, what happened, I mean, with the radio station, I tried to do a variety of promotions. Like I did a couple of dinner and dances, tried to do awareness of, and also try to raise money for organisations. But you know, it was a case where it was hard. It was a hard struggle, and I was quite surprised that we've seen rises of like reunions, a variety of reunions, and I thought, you know what? No, there was a few people who done the Powerhouse reunion, But I thought, you know what, let me do it. I fancy giving it a go.
I think because it came from you, because people knew it was you and you was a DJ there, not people who were just trying to say Powerhouse because they went to the event, but people
I
and
don't
DJs.
know. I really don't know why it took off. I really, really don't know why it took off, because when I put it together, there was lots of things going on what I didn't have what I really wanted, but when I did put it together and started the promotion of it, I set up a page on Facebook with it, and I don't know, it just caught people's imagination. I don't know why. I really, really don't know why it caught the imagination. And it started from May 2019, and I let everybody know in June that the 30th of November, this reunion about the Birmingham Powerhouse, I was doing it. Well, I didn't say I was doing it, I just kind of kept in the background, but I got it all going out. I announced it, 30th of November, Birmingham Powerhouse. And I don't know, it just happened. There was a bit of a rollerball where people was talking about it, people was saying, this Paris Orkney, and I thought, wow, there's me planning just one room.
Who did you have on the bill for those events?
For the first event?
Yeah, for the first reunion.
The first event was virtually, I had, in the boogie room, now I'll go to jazz room because it's easy to remember, Chris Reed, Colin Parnell, and the very first one, but he never got it because of the date change. But Chris Rivendock, Chris Reed from both who was on the Powerhouse with me, Colin Parnell, and Killer Jim from Nottingham. That was the jazz room. The funk room was Bruce Q, Shaquille Dixon.
Or Paul Mixed Wizard Dixon, as people knew him as.
At that time, but he's a Muslim now. Kenny B, and also
Kenny B from
Fitzroy.
Chic Squad.
Yeah.
Kenny B.
Yeah. Then Fitzroy, Fitzroy from the Soul Survivor magazine, and Simon Schoolboy Phillips. That was the first DJs.
Simon Schoolboy Phillips from Nottingham.
Leicester.
Leicester. Leicester.
Yeah.
It's one step ahead from Nottingham.
Yeah. So those are my DJs, and what happened? It wasn't the DJs that made the event. It was the magic of going back in time, remembering our youth, remembering friends, because we'd lost a lot of friends over the years.
But did you see original faces from? When you was going through the crowd? Did you see faces from that era?
Well,
but obviously the older self.
Well, speaking about the event itself, I was shocked about the response to it. I was really shocked, and so I thought, what I'll do to make it extra special, I'm going to reach out to certain artists to make it special, and I didn't announce it. So I managed to sort out Carl from Loose Ends.
Wow.
I managed to sort out Lester from Atmosphere, Dancing Outer Space.
Whoa.
and because I actually managed
How
projection.
How did you find
Atmosphere? I found, I had the resources to find, and Doreen from Projection as well, because I used to manage them.
Wow.
So there's a lot of things people don't realise what I was involved with. And what happened, so I didn't announce it that they was coming. I just wanted everybody to come on the back of the Powerhouse reunion. So on the night, I was really, really amazed. I mean, I didn't enjoy it myself because...
You're never going to enjoy it as a promoter because you're
too much was
organising.
going on, yeah. But looking down at the crowd, watching the bodies moving and the appreciation of the people hugging people that I haven't seen in years.
I wanted to come myself, but because of work commitments, I couldn't be there. But I was there because the social media made me be there because everybody was filming it, and it was just
I was shocked.
Incredible, and I was thinking, this really took off, and I saw faces that I knew from who used to go when I used to go to Powerhouse back in the day.
What was amazing for me was one of the DJs, Fitz, well actually, but Fitz, he says, London has not got nothing like this. And people were saying that, I mean, they were saying that it was like, this was one of the best night outs for the decades.
Yes.
And again, I couldn't see because, you know.
Well, the comments what I was seeing on social media said it spoke for itself, and it was obviously a phenomenal night. One thing I want to, because I want to try and wrap it up. But your career spanned from the 70s up until now. With a break, obviously we all take breaks. With a break, but it spanned this era where you've been a club promoter, you're a DJ, you've sold the music in a retail fashion, you've managed artists, you've been motivated to mentor other DJs as well over the years, right? In your words, what does it take to become a DJ of any? I don't want to say successful because that can mean a lot of things for a lot of people, financial.
I just think that
a DJ, what's got the name that you have, a synonymous name in a city like Birmingham.
I don't know if I got a good name or not. I don't know about that.
Believe me, you wouldn't be here if you wasn't.
I don't know about that. But the one thing I would always say is just be yourselves, enjoy what you do. You have to embrace the business side of it because, I mean, I didn't really embrace the business side of it. If I did, I would have done things a lot better. But I think you need to embrace the business side of it. You need to embrace the current trends as well because things are forever moving. So you need to embrace that as well. And if possible, stay political correct. You can't please everybody all the time, but try to please most people. Just, you know, so that's what I would say because, like, it's one of those industries where you can absolutely love it, but you can absolutely hate it as well. So it's good to have thick skin as well because you're going to need it as well. So enjoy, and if anything, you know, try and set yourself goals where you want to achieve things within it.
Would you say in your career that you've achieved, I'd say at least 80% of the goals?
No, definitely not. All I would say is that I was fortunate to experience a lot of nice things. I was fortunate to experience a lot of positive things, but I've also experienced a lot of bad things as well, which wasn't nice. So that kind of like, it gives me a balance of not going crazy over certain things. So this Powerhouse reunion, it's brilliant and so forth, but it's also measured as well in my own personal appreciation of it. What happens to it tomorrow, next year, the year after, I really don't know. I really don't know.
Where do you see your career? You're back in the music scene. You're DJing on your radio show syndicated in a lot of different stations. Where do you see your career going now? Is your future in radio mostly, or where do you see it going?
No.
Are you still going to continue with?
I prefer to term it a different way. I prefer to term it that, as far as music is concerned, I just want to try to maintain a love. If I can maintain a love for it, then however long it lasts, then I'll enjoy that journey. If that time comes, which it will come, when that time comes where, you know, I've had a good innings, because I've had a good innings, especially with the rebirth. I didn't expect it, but I've had a good innings, and so, you know, at least I can look back, and I think also as well, at least I have like the shows where if I put them all up on YouTube now, they'll be forever there. You know, I've left a legacy. Good, bad, indifferent, I've left a legacy.
Well, I would like to think that I'm part of your legacy as a DJ that was influenced by your skill as a DJ and your knowledge of music in the R&B and hip hop world. And
Thank you.
Frenchie, it's been a pleasure. It's
Thank you.
Absolutely, you don't understand, you've learned a day.
Thank you.